Welcome to the Art Beauty Podcast special summer series in partnership with New Beauty Magazine. Every week during the months of July and August, we are going to be spicing up your summer with incredible guests direct from the pages of New Beauty Magazine. I'm Amber, and today my fabulous and gorgeous co-host is Elana Drell-Szyfer. She is the CEO of RéVive Skincare, and I am so excited to have you on because this is a line that has so much science behind it. I want to dig all into this. Elana, thank you for being here with us today.
My pleasure, and thank you for having me.
So, okay, RéVive is, I consider, one of the most luxurious lines out there. And this is a line that I have heard about. I know that they have this incredible Peau Magnifique, which I want to ask you about later. This is a $1,500 treatment serum, but I want to get into the science of this. Before we do this, I have to just have like a little moment here with you. I am such a huge fan of the Dermaflash, and I read an interview that you love it too.
Yes. So I obviously, like everyone else during COVID, at least the beginning months, couldn't get a facial. And that's part of I've worked in skincare for many years, but that's part of my personal beauty routine. I feel like I was getting regular facials even before I had a career in beauty. That came from my mother. That was just sort of how we were raised. But I'd never done dermaplaning. Okay. So during COVID, I started buying every device to kind of replicate a facial service. So I bought, I bought the Dermaflash, I have New Face, I have Zip, I have them all. And so, but I had never done dermaplaning, and I have a friend who has really beautiful skin, and she had been swears by dermaplaning, in office dermaplaning, during a facial, etc. So I was like, all right, well, let me try the Dermaflash, and I really, really like it.
Yes, it is. So I've interviewed Dawn, who is the founder of this product. I am a huge fan of dermaplaning. For me, in all honesty, and I keep it real here, it's because it removes the vellus hair. I don't care about the dry skin. Sure, great. Or I should say I didn't care about the dry skin. I had dermaplaning done professionally at a doctor here, Dr. Rusak, in her office, and it was great. But what I noticed was that my makeup went on smoother. Everything just looked, and people would say, wow, your skin looks great. And I think that vellus hair, when your skin is a smoother, it's going to reflect light better.
Yeah.
And it just looks healthier. So the Dermaflash, to me, when I met the woman who owned the company, and she was like, you have to try this. Full disclosure, I found that the Dermaflash was really, really amazing for removing hair. I never really realized the dry skin part of that. I know that it helps to do that. I've since also tried, I was introduced to this brand, Stacked Skincare, through New Beauty Live. Yes. And Stacked Skincare is, they have a dermaplaning device, but it is a straight edge razor.
So you have to have a little trust in yourself.
A little trust in yourself. I mean, they make it so you just hold it against your skin. It's a very well designed device. And that I've kind of gone to. When I use that razor, I really see the dead skin coming off. So I feel like the Dermaflash is a very user-friendly version. Like It
is user-friendly. It's super user-friendly.
And it does the trick. And boy, I mean, that was like my number one. If my girlfriends were like, where should I spend my money on an at-home? I said, the Dermaflash, the Dermaflash, the Dermaflash. And now if you've got a very steady hand, I would say you could throw in the Stacked, but be careful.
Yeah. I mean, what I notice now, and to your point, it's not, when I use the Dermaflash, I'm not sure I see something, right? I mean, then I don't really look at the blade afterwards. But I feel a real difference in my skin. And then I really do notice kind of a dewiness or a suppleness to the skin. And whether that's because of the vellus hair not being there, or maybe, what they say is then products can penetrate more deeply.
Sure.
Whether it's one or the other, I just feel a difference in the quality of my actual skin.
I'm so glad you brought that up too. And I assume you're putting one of the fabulous RéVive serums on afterwards. So
Maybe more than one.
more than one. Okay. Oh, I do want to talk about this. I read that you like learned how to multi-mask and layer your mask and serum. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this. Okay. So let's get into the products and let's get into
Sure.
RéVive. For people who don't know, like I said, RéVive is this what I consider just a gorgeous luxury brand. But there is so much incredible science, and I love the story with the founder, how this was came about. Can you share that with us?
Sure. So RéVive this year, actually in 2022, the brand will actually be 25 years old. And the brand was founded by a plastic and reconstructive surgeon. His name is Dr. Gregory Bays Brown. He's originally from Kentucky, and he now lives in Kentucky. Well, he splits his time between New York and Kentucky. And he, he's now retired, but he was a plastic and reconstructive surgeon. And post-medical school, he did his residency, at his internship and his residency with a focus really on burned wound healing and
Yes.
skin grafts, and the health of skin grafts post burn wound healing. And so what he has explained to us many times is that, there's a very critical period after you do a skin graft on somebody, where you really need to ensure that the skin that you regraft takes, literally, that
Right.
new skin cells start to produce very rapidly where you place the skin graft. Otherwise, there's a chance of infection, sepsis, and those things can ultimately be fatal. And
Right.
so he really focused on what could be done and how could the wound be treated so that new skin cells started to produce, most quickly. And he was looking into research that was done and started in the 1960s by two researchers, who ended up winning the Nobel Prize, Stanley Cohen and Rita Montalcini. And they did work, kind of conceptual work, if you will, on epidermal growth factor.
Right.
Epidermal growth factor is something that's found naturally within the body, but within very trace amounts, not in very high amounts. And it is one of the things in healthy skin cells that makes skin cell turnover on a regular 28-day cycle.
Got it.
They started to do was work on, first of all, they identified the existence and the presence of epidermal growth factor, and they understood how it worked within the body.
Well,
Um,
and I want to just stop you right there
yeah.
because I do think that EGFs they have a little bit of controversy behind them, right? We're not going to hide
Mhm.
here, right? Because some of them are derived human. Now there's biomimetic ways to get EGFs, but that said, it's a protein for people. I had a friend ask me, they were like, "Boy, you have these human cells floating around, and it's not, right? So it's not the actual human cell or tissue; it is the protein."
Correct. And for
Okay.
example, the way that we work with it, we don't use human epidermal growth factor. We use a biomimetic epidermal growth factor. And that's
Okay.
actually where Dr. Brown was an innovator, right? So he didn't
Okay.
discover epidermal growth factor. And he himself did not win the Nobel Prize for epidermal growth factor. There was science that won the Nobel Prize on epidermal growth factor. And where he put two and two together really was in two areas. One, epidermal growth factor was not available commercially,
Hmm.
biomimetically at the time. It had to be harvested either, and so he worked with a biotech company in San Francisco to create biomimetic replicas of epidermal growth factor. That company ultimately ended up becoming the investor, one of the first investors in RéVive, to be
Okay.
able to bring epidermal growth factor to market in a biomimetic way, number one. And number two, epidermal growth factor was being used only for medicinal purposes on
Okay.
burn wound healing. And it was really Dr. Brown who was the first person to do research on understanding if epidermal growth factor helps skin cells turn over at their normal rate, he put two and two together and kind of said, if this works with burn wound healing victims, what could it do for people in an anti-aging situation, right? Because
Yeah.
aging and what you end up seeing on your skin comes from a slowdown in normal skin cell turnover. If when you're in your 20s, your skin turns over every 28 days, as we age, skin cells turn over every 30, 35, 40, et cetera. And it's this process really of slowing down healthy skin cell turnover that's how you see visible aging. And so
Right.
it was a many year period from being a resident when he worked with it really from a medicinal point of view to when he was then in his own practice back in Kentucky. And women would come to him honestly and say, Dr. Brown, I'd like a facelift, an eye lift, a jaw lift, et cetera. And he'd say, okay, tell me what you see in your skin and tell me what you're looking for. And sure, sometimes people said, I'd like my skin to be more taut and I want to lift. But very often what people said to him is, my skin is dull and it doesn't have that glow that it
Mm-hmm.
used to when I was younger. And that's when Dr. Brown kind of would say, honestly, surgery is not going to help you with that.
Right.
Really only healthy skin cells and regular skin cell turnover that's going to help you with that. And that's kind of how he came to this idea of epidermal growth factor in skincare products. And he has what I think is a very brilliant saying, which is, skincare goes where surgery can't, and surgery goes where skincare can't. Because I think in the beginning, people were like, you're a plastic and reconstructive surgeon, you do facelifts all day long. Why do you need a skincare line? And he kind of
Right.
said, because there's something different that skincare can do that surgery is not going to do for you. Whether that be healthy skin cell turnover, whether that be certain areas you can't do surgery on, for example, the neck.
Right.
And so that really is the science and the origins of how the brand started. But the way that he kind of got to a cream was the following. Doctors really didn't used to advertise, and Dr. Brown, definitely didn't used to advertise, but he wanted to give his patients something after they had surgery with him, to remember him by, to pass along kind of as a calling card to others, etc.
Listen, I don't know if you've ever had plastic surgery. I'm not going to go there. I have. And the thing that I said was, boy, I just spent a lot of money. Shouldn't I go home with a doggy bag? Shouldn't I have some at-home care?
Yes. So this was his
So
dog
this is
bag.
brilliant.
Yes. So what he
Yes.
did was he actually started by taking his own mother's Elizabeth Arden Visible Difference cream
Right.
and taking this.
Wait a minute. His mother, oh, I'm sorry. His mother wasn't Elizabeth Arden.
No,
His
no,
mother was
he
using,
took,
I
yes,
was like,
his
wait
mother's,
a minute.
yeah, no, his
How did I
mother was
miss
using,
this?
yes, so his
Okay.
mother used like Elizabeth Arden Visible Difference. And
Sure.
he essentially is like, well, if I take this base and I put some epidermal growth factor in there, I wonder what that would do for people. That's kind of how it started. And then from there, he went to a formulator. He formulated a cream and he put epidermal growth factor in it, and he would give it to people post surgery. And one of those very happy customers happened to know somebody who was running Neiman Marcus stores. It was about 2 years after Creme de la Mer launched.
Right.
And
Which, interestingly enough, was also from somebody who worked with burns.
yes, exactly.
Yes.
From a different angle, from
Right.
a kind of more of a lab science perspective. He was a NASA scientist. So Dr. Brown's more of a medical
A
doctor.
medical.
But basically, Neiman Marcus, excuse
Oh,
me,
bless you.
thank you. Neiman Marcus approached, see, it must be true. Neiman Marcus approached him and said, well, listen, if you'll like commercialize this, we'll launch you. And that's how the brand started.
And that was the moisturizing renewal cream in
Yes.
1977.
1997.
1997,
Yeah,
sorry.
1997.
Right.
Yes.
1997. So
And
25 years
is going to be in 2022.
later, we've got this incredible line, or 24 years later now,
Yeah.
this has branched out. So what was the reaction? So people were coming back, they were trying this beautiful, gorgeous cream that he'd come up with. What were the types of things that they were seeing?
So that particular cream, I think, is built in a way that you're going to see something immediately, and then you're going to see something over time.
Right.
So the idea of the cream, and again, this is a place where I think Dr. Brown was very prescient as an ideator. He, as I said, understood that healthy skin has a certain glow. And so I want you to know that many, many, many years ago, he trademarked the term "get the glow."
Oh, really?
Yes. And so
Sorry, I probably owe him some money.
so this idea of glowing skin is how the product is built. So it has a very high concentration of glycolic acid.
Okay.
So if you put it on at night, you are going to get that exfoliation to kind of take off that layer of dead skin cells immediately, so that you are going to see a glow in your skin the next day. But where you're going to see the glow, if you will, over time, is that it contains what we call biorenewal protein, which is our proprietary biomimetic active fraction of a peptide that replicates the active fraction of epidermal growth factor. And that helps to, we say, help skin behave like younger skin. So,
Okay.
irrespective of where you are sort of in your chronological aging process, this helps to regulate healthy skin turnover. And with healthy skin turnover, your skin gets back that glow of youth.
This is like the morning cup of coffee for our own cells, correct?
Exactly.
Got
Exactly.
it.
So it's sort of like you have overnight, you have a little Red Bull, right? It's an immediate glow because of that glycolic acid. And then over time, you just have that steady drip, caffeine drip.
Yeah, nice. And I have to say, because I I'm so fascinated with this idea of EGFs, because I believe that the science just is incredible behind it, and I've seen long-term results from it. Can you explain to people at home what the difference is, or what you mean by biomimetic?
Yes. So what that means is that it is created in a laboratory to replicate basically the DNA structure of a human epidermal growth factor, but it's not of human origin.
Got
So
it.
it's made, it basically it's biochemistry. It's made in a lab. If you looked at it under a microscope and you looked at the chemical makeup of the ingredient, it replicates the look of the active fraction of epidermal growth factor, but it is not of human origin.
Wow. So that's really good to know, because I know that there are people who are, it's a slightly controversial
Yes.
topic
And also there are regulatory, I mean, depending where you are in the world, there's
in
some
the world.
regulatory issues.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Is that like Europe doesn't allow them, or Europe
I don't
does?
don't know specifically which
Got it.
markets anymore, and I think it's something that's changed over time. But that is one of the controversies around sort of the origin of epidermal growth factor. Is there are, I think, some markets that don't allow epidermal growth factor of human origin, and that is one of the reasons why that is not what we work with.
Wonderful. And I have to say, just looking at you right now, your skin is absolutely glowing. So what I want to get into is, what are you using?
Well, okay, first of all, hello, foundation and, bronzer and all of those other things. But of course, I do use RéVive. And actually, we have a pretty tight range. It's about 40 SKUs. I will tell you that Dr. Brown's philosophy is definitely around simplicity
Okay.
and consistency. So less is more. So he's not a like more, more, more. He believes skincare is like braces, and he's like, you need to keep them on and, keep it consistent, and that things can change, but you have to be slow and steady about it. So, I mean, in general, right? I cleanse, I tone, I use on a very regular basis. I always use some kind of serum, and I'll tell you what I kind of differentiate with, and a sunscreen during the day, an eye cream, and at night. it depends. Sometimes where I really tend to layer serums is at
Is it?
night for
Yeah.
multiple benefits. So sometimes I'll layer 2 serums and a night cream. And I'll tell you within our range, that I think some of the things that are a must. First of all, you talk about aging
I was
under
gonna say, what
here,
about the neck?
right?
What
Yeah.
about
So
here?
Dr. Brown, the second product he introduced was a neck cream,
Mhm.
a neck cream with an SPF. And that is because he realized that, again, he was kind of limited as a surgeon to hear up,
Yep.
from a facial perspective. But especially 25 years ago, there was no Ultherapy 25 years ago or other things. There was certainly less you could do for the neck. And he developed a cream with certain peptides in SPF really to treat the neck because the skin is thinner on the neck.
And when you say neck, I just want to stop people. I was skeptical when it came to neck cream. I really was. And I happened to do Ulthera, which I love. I'm a huge fan of, but they didn't do it down into the chest. And when I saw the before and after, and I was using a cream afterwards, a neck, I'm now a converted. I believe that it is something, the lines were gone in areas that weren't Ulthera. So I'm a huge, huge, huge believer in this now. And the neck and deck is just, I mean, my mother, thank God, always used to tell me, protect this area because it's going to show your age first. And I do think women now are way more into total body anti-aging, right? So we do focus a lot on our face, but I think more and more women are understanding the hands are important, the arms, the deck, the knees.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting because we launched a body line last year with 3 products. One, a body serum.
Okay.
So kind of, the same type of concentrated type of ingredients, focus on exfoliation, but also with our biorenewal protein. We launched that for body, but especially, for things like it has lactic acid, not only glycolic, but lactic acid, biorenewal protein, because those areas are important. There's a lot of sun damage that people have here or here,
Yes.
knees, to your point. And the other thing that we have also for body is we're, I think, really one of the few brands, especially in the luxury segment, with an SPF 50
An
for
SPF,
body.
which is beautiful. A 50.
A 50 for body, a 50 for face. Yeah.
You're
All of our day creams have SPF. They always have. And that, again, Dr. Brown will tell you, the most important anti-aging ingredient is sunscreen.
Is sunscreen. Thank you. I mean, it's so true. It's so true. And you brought up the knees before. I was at the beach recently and I put on sunscreen everywhere. And what I didn't do was reapply it to my knees soon enough. And I was sitting, even though I was covered, just on the, where your knee bends, the folds of the knee. Somehow on both corners, I must have missed something and I got burned there. And so now I'm just totally freaking out because I'm like, oh my gosh, is that going to be super wrinkled?
It's a good thing Maxi dresses in.
It is a good thing the Maxi dress is in, and it's a good thing. Yes, it's just great. It's a good thing that you're going to be part of the new beauty box in September, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Okay, so all of these, so your entire line is everything in the line has these biomimetic.
Yes, we
EGFs.
have,
Okay.
with the exception of where we don't include we have 3 different biorenewal proteins. Any of our products has anywhere from 1 to 3, and I'll explain that a little bit, with the exception of anything that is a wash-off product.
Okay,
So
right.
we don't have it in a cleanser, we don't have it in a toner, but we do have it in some masks, not all. But other than that, all creams, serums, eye creams, etc.
So now tell me, what are your favorites?
Okay, of course, moisturizing renewal cream, right? That is one of my favorites. We just launched. There were 3, I think, kind of core ingredients that everybody in skincare knows that we did not have in the line. One was we did not have a vitamin C serum. So we recently launched a vitamin C serum, but in a very different way, right? If we are going to
Okay.
do something, it has to, we say it has to be very RéVive. So we all know it's very difficult to formulate with vitamin C, and we all know the stability of vitamin C is very difficult. So we've created something, it's a tube, except it's a dual chamber tube.
Okay.
It's a dual chamber tube. It has one orifice with two holes. And so you effectively have two formulas. One is a formula with a 15% level of vitamin C, of
Okay.
pure ascorbic acid in a powder form. And the
Oh,
powder is in a formula, but the powder is dissolved in the formula, and it's kept isolated in that tube until it's evacuated. And so you're really getting a very high level of
with no
pure
oxidation.
ascorbic acid, right? So that's
Correct.
one. And then the second tube is the thing people don't realize about vitamin C is that it is a low level acid, right?
Hmm.
So there is an exfoliation component in addition to the antioxidant and collagen building component. And so sometimes people can't use vitamin C because it's irritating for them or it's
Hmm.
drying. So what we did on the other side, recognizing that, is we put a very emollient and moisture rich serum on the other side with our biorenewal protein. And so when you evacuate the two and you get it in your hand, and then you put it on your face, you actually have both. So I use
Mm.
that.
So is that your daytime?
I use it often during the day, yes. We also launched, and I use this now at night, not every night, but I alternate it with moisturizing renewal cream. We launched a retinol formula,
Oh,
um,
great.
a retinol night cream, so biorenewal protein plus retinol. And again, it was we also know retinol is an ingredient that can be difficult to formulate with. We hadn't formulated with retinol for a different reason. Dr. Brown does believe in a non-aggressive approach, and
Hmm.
retinols can be very aggressive.
Right.
But we were able to work with retinol in a way that you get kind of high level performance without high level irritation. And we've put it into a jar that is a center dispense so that it's also kept clean and the retinol also kept intact. So that is another product that I've started using as
Okay.
well. And I think it's great. A lot of people look at retinol for lines, but I also think it's really great on skin tone and texture.
I
For
agree. For me, the pores,
discolorations.
when I stopped using it, and for a while, and I tell this, I've said this in the podcast before, sometimes your skin just won't tolerate something that it's been tolerating forever. You never know. You could have something hormonal going on, outside stress, environmental issues. But for some reason, I had to stop retinol, which I was a huge proponent of and used regularly. And what I started to notice when I stopped it is I could start to see my pores. And I've got pretty good skin, but I started to notice some of the pores right in this area. And I've since added retinol back into my routine, and they have gone. So I am a huge fan of retinol, but you have to be careful with it. You're right.
Yeah.
I don't,
So, yep.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So that's one. We have a serum called Intensité Complete, and it
Okay.
is a very, very lightweight serum. We have one for face and we have one for eyes, and it really addresses both fine lines as well as texture. So I like the idea of a very lightweight serum, especially if you're going to layer or put it underneath another moisturizer. So that's one I use, and we have some terrific eye creams. We actually, a lot of people know us for moisturizing renewal cream, which is the hero for Motif Neck, which was the second product. But in fact, in the past 3.5 years, that's how long I have been with the brand and my team. We have done a lot of international expansion. And so actually, of our top 10, 5 of our top 10 products are actually eye products.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yes, so between eye serums, eye creams, and we have a very unique, and it's a top seller in Asia, eye mask, which
Oh,
is you can wear. It's a gel cream mask. It can be worn, for 15 minutes, but it can also be worn overnight. And that is an amazing product, especially if you don't look like you should be going out, but you need to go out anyway. I would recommend that one.
I've started noticing the crepiness. I'm now going to be 42 very shortly. And that's where I started to notice more
It's
the crepiness and the
also
aging. What do you
it's
think it
also
do you think it's like something that we're maybe focusing more on our screens? Like, do you think that there's a reason that eyes are trending so much?
I mean, first of all, I think the eye area, yes, I think it's all of those things, and it's actually something that, from a kind of a future forward perspective, we're looking into a lot as a brand, which is how is environmental change, especially the extreme weather that's happening now globally. What
Yeah.
kind of effect is that going to have on skin?
Mm-hmm.
So but yes, I do think some of it is screens, and just blue, just sort of blue, sort of blue light or translucent light, constantly, right? Whether it's from your phone, whether it's from your screen, etc. Some of it is just how thin the skin is here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a question of, for me, I know if I haven't had enough water to drink during the day, that's where I see it. The sleep thing, that's
I
kind
was
of where I see it.
I was just going to call myself out because if you've had too many tequila sodas or
Yeah,
martinis or glasses
that
of
too.
rosé,
That
that's
too.
when you start to
Yes,
that's when you
that
start
too.
to see it.
That guilty as charged. That too.
That's so wonderful. So I know that we cannot skirt around this, right? So this is a very luxury priced
Yep.
line. And one of the things I have to say I love about New Beauty and working with New Beauty, I think that they offer and that they support such a range, right? So there's something truly for everyone, but every single one of the products that they choose to endorse really are backed by some incredible science and results
Mhm.
and real results. Have you seen any incredible skin transformations?
Yes, and
Many, right?
I think, the thing about the line, it is, listen, it was designed to be, and it is, in a certain type of distribution, for a certain type of customer at a certain price point. But what's interesting about it is the products are so performing,
Mm-hmm.
that the visible changes,
Are
people say, yeah, it's pricey, but it's worth it. I mean,
it's I don't even say it's not it's an investment.
yes, it
Right.
is
And
an
so
investment.
I was I'm telling you, and the reason that I love having this podcast is because it's not sponsored and I can say whatever I want. But one of the things that I do love is being honest and saying I was skeptical. I started to use certain pricier things and I was like, really? And like I said, I just had these before and afters from this Althera experience, somewhere that they didn't do it. And I noticed results that can only be attributed to the very quality skincare that I was using.
Mhm.
So I am a convert and I think that this is wonderful and I'm so excited that you're going to be part of the September box. Can you tell us what's in it?
Yes, well, you mentioned something. You said RéVive is a line that has this incredible $1,500 treatment called Peau Magnifique. So Peau Magnifique was created many years ago, as a kind of a twice a year jump start for your skin. And I think there have been many, many sort of, followers to come since, but I think really Dr. Brown was one of the first. So since the time of that Peau Magnifique, and what Peau Magnifique is for
Yeah,
people who
wait,
don't
let's
know, it's
not go away from this. I want to know
yeah,
everything
yeah,
about this. The reviews on it are insane.
right. So what Peau
So,
Magnifique
uh-huh.
is it's 4 individual vials. You use one each week. And it's a real jump start for your skin. And even when Dr. Brown does, in-store appearances, and he sells a lot of Poe during those times to people. Sometimes people will say, one of the ways he recommends Peau Magnifique is if you are getting a facelift, your skin really needs to be in its best condition possible before you go in, so the healing can happen afterwards. And he recommends Peau before a facelift, kind of get your skin into that type of condition. But it's recommended, if, before a special event, a wedding or a big party or et cetera, to sort of get your skin in its best shape possible. But since Peau was launched,
wait, what? But what is it? Is it an exfoliation? Is it retinol? Is it high potent serum? Like, what is in it?
It's a very high concentration of our biorenewal proteins.
God, oh my gosh!
And so, what
do you just bathe in this?
I don't, but I am. That's what I want to tell you. So, since it was launched, we've never done anything else in Peau.
Okay.
And we've never done anything that could be used in between those treatments. And so what we are launching in September, and that's what's going to be in the box, is we are launching the maintenance serum of Peau Magnifique. So if you're not a $1,500 twice a year person, but you want something to use every night with those benefits, that's what we're launching. It's called Peau Magnifique Nightly Renewing Serum. And this has, and we've never done this before, we have 3 different biorenewal proteins we use. One is a renewal, one is a firming, and one is a volumizing protein. All 3 of them are in this formula. It will be launched in September, and there is, I think it's a 30 ml, and so I think it's a 10 ml that is in the box.
Okay, so let me just do the math here. This serum is going to be $750, and depending where you live, you can know what the taxes on that are going to be plus. And we're going to get a third of that.
Yes,
in the box. That I feel like I don't. What are the boxes, like $160? I think there's only a few left. If you haven't gotten one yet, you might want to run over and get it right now. And I hope I don't get in trouble. We don't normally reveal stuff. So, but whoops, I'm sorry. I got so excited that this is going to be in.
So yeah, so it's really exciting for us because we've never, since Peau launched, it's Peau, 28-day treatment, et cetera. And the other thing about this is it can be used face, hands, neck, and décolleté.
Wonderful. I don't know, for all of you side sleepers out there, and if there's younger people listening, I'm a side sleeper. I try to sleep on my back. It's the best thing. But the thing that yes, it's not great for the face, but what it's really not great for is the lines down the cleavage.
Yes, I'm a side sleeper, so I can relate.
When you wake up in the morning and it's like, oh, shoot. Oh my gosh, Elana, I could just talk to you forever and ever. This is so fascinating. If people want to know more about the RéVive line, where can they go?
To RéViveSkincare.com.
Wonderful. And let me tell you too, all of the history is there. You could spend hours looking at the site itself. Is beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
Do we specify, like, okay, if you were to say the top 3 products that people should,
top 3 products I would say are the moisturizing renewal cream, the Firmatif neck, and then I would say our Intensité Les Yeux. That's our number 1 eye cream.
Okay, so not even delving into the serums. Now, which are the serums?
In terms of the serums, okay, I'm going to give you 3 to choose from. The first one is, and it's recently launched. We launched a hyaluronic acid serum. Very different for us. Very high concentration of hyaluronic acid, but also in a super, super lightweight texture, but with beads, vitamin E beads, and some other incredible ingredients. So that would be one. The second would be the vitamin C serum. Mm-hmm. And the third would be our Intensité Complete.
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. It just sounds so delicious. And I cannot wait to try this in the box. I cannot wait to talk to you again on New Beauty Live, September 29th. I want to thank you so much for being on with me today.
Oh, Amber, thank you. It's really a pleasure to meet you.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to meet you. And again, if you at home listening are as blown away as I am, I know you are. you can get a taste of this fabulous luxury. Like we said, it's going to be part of the September box for New Beauty Live, the VIP box. If you just want to watch and learn more, you can always tune in. It's free. We love to have you. And if you have any questions you want me to pass along to Elana or to ask prior to the event, send them my way. Hello@Art Beauty Podcast. I'll be sure to do that. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and of course here on YouTube at Art Beauty Podcast. And as always, we will see you next Tuesday. Bye.
Bye.